You know, some stories get lost to the ages, but others get frozen in time. Today we're diving into one of the biggest maritime mysteries ever, a story about a remote lighthouse, 3 seasoned keepers, and a disappearance so complete it's like they just vanished. So, let's set the scene. The year is 1900. It's the dawn of a new century, a time of incredible change. But out in the wild corners of the world, the old dangers of the sea, they were as real as ever.
And our story unfolds right here, on Alien Moor, one of the Flannan Isles off the super rugged coast of Scotland. I mean, this place is harsh. It's unforgiving, constantly battered by the North Atlantic, and home to just a few people at any given time.
And it was from this desolate piece of rock that 3 men disappeared. I'm talking no bodies, no signs of a fight, not a single clear explanation. Just an empty lighthouse and a mystery that, more than a century later, is still completely unsolved.
So, how did this whole mystery even begin? Well, it all kicks off the moment someone realizes something is terribly wrong. It starts with the arrival of a simple relief ship.
Right, so it's Boxing Day, December 26th. A supply ship finally makes it to the island after days of nasty weather. A keeper named Joseph Moore heads ashore, expecting a totally routine handover. But instead of a warm welcome, he gets silence. Just this deep, unnerving quiet. Nobody's there to greet him.
And inside, the scene is just chilling. It's like life just stopped mid-beat. The lighthouse door was unlocked, the beds were unmade, and on the table, a meal of salted mutton was sitting cold, like the men were literally about to sit down and eat. Everything looked so normal, but it was also wrong. And maybe the weirdest part, the clocks had all just stopped. Now, before we get into all the crazy theories, it's really important to understand who these men were and the incredibly vital job they had. This was not your average 9 to 5.
See, being a lighthouse keeper was all about one thing. You keep that light burning no matter what. In those dangerous waters, their lamp was the only thing protecting ships from being smashed to pieces on the rocks. These guys were professionals, seasoned, experienced men who weren't easily spooked.
But here's the thing. That creepy silence on December 26th, that wasn't actually the first sign something was wrong. The problem had started way earlier, but at the time, nobody knew just how bad it was.
The first real red flag was on December 15th. A passing ship, the Archnaughter, noticed the lighthouse was dark and reported it. I mean, that's a huge deal. But then, a massive storm system rolled in, completely cutting the island off for 11 long days. Can you just imagine the anxiety building as day after day goes by with no contact? The mystery was just getting deeper with every wave that crashed.
In the middle of all the strangeness, the stopped clocks, the uneaten meal, investigators found the one thing that could speak for the keepers themselves, the official logbook. And honestly, what it said just made everything even more confusing.
This wasn't just your standard record of weather and chores. No, the last few entries gave a really bizarre glimpse into the men's state of mind. And it was unsettling.
The log described a horrible storm, one so bad that the winds were literally shaking the entire tower. Then it mentions one of the men, a tough veteran keeper, was quiet and crying. I mean, that's really weird for a guy like him. But then you get to the final entry, and that's where it just goes off the rails.
So, this is it. The very last thing written. The storm has passed. God is over all. This was written on December 15th, the day the light went out. The tone is so calm. So what is this? Is it a prayer of relief, like, phew, we made it through? Or is it something darker, a final acceptance of their fate? We just have no idea. What could have possibly happened between this moment of calm and them disappearing?
So, with no bodies and only a handful of really bizarre clues, you can bet the theories started flying almost immediately. Everybody wanted an answer. So let's look at the biggest ones.
Okay, the most common scientific explanation you'll hear is the rogue wave. And listen, we're not just talking about a big wave. These things are like monsters, unpredictable, massive walls of water that can pop up out of nowhere even when the sea seems calm.
But the rogue wave theory has some serious holes. Yeah, the area is known for bad weather, and some equipment was damaged, but it doesn't all add up. For starters, regulations said one keeper always had to be inside the lighthouse, so why were all 3 of them outside? And here's the kicker. Weather reports from the mainland don't show any storm that matches the one described in that logbook.
And this brings us to the single biggest problem with every theory. 1. Inside the lighthouse, one set of oilskins, their heavy-duty raincoats, was still hanging on its peg. 2 were gone. So, who in their right mind would go out into a brutal North Atlantic storm without their coat? It makes no sense. It points to something happening incredibly fast, something really, really desperate.
Of course, plenty of other ideas have been tossed around. Some people thought maybe they fought, but the lighthouse was tidy, no sign of a struggle. Then you get the more wild theories, spies, sea serpents, aliens, but there's zero evidence for any of that. And even a simple tragic accident while working outside still doesn't explain that one coat left behind. See, every single theory just hits a brick wall.
So where does all this leave us? Well, after all the investigations, all the searching, and more than a century of speculation, we're pretty much right back where we started.
And that's the cold, hard reality of it. It's been over 120 years, and the Flannan Isles mystery is as cold as it gets. The men were gone, the scene never gave up their bodies, and the island never gave up its secrets. Not a single theory can explain all the strange details.
Which leaves us with the big one. What really happened out there? Was it a freak of nature that defied all the odds? Was it some act of panic or desperation that we just can't imagine? Or was it something else? The silence from Island Moor gives us nothing.
Whatever the truth is, it seems like it was washed away right along with the men themselves. And maybe, like the lighthouse beam that used to cut through all that darkness, the truth is still out there. Somewhere. Just waiting.